Okay.
Waiting for it to come on.
Without a president or a vice president, who runs the meeting?
Good afternoon, this is Adrienne Thompson from Planning and Building Services calling the Fish and Game Commission special meeting of January 23rd, 2004 to session. It is 4 p.m. I'll note for the record that Vice Chair Madigan is absent by prearrangement, and so our first order of business is to elect a chair to the Fish and Game Commission.
Can she, it was always my understanding that the duties of the vice chair was to step in for the chair when the chair was absent. Can Patty be moved into the chair position?
Not without her being here to run today's meeting.
Gotcha.
So we still need a chair for today. Patty will be absent through the following meeting as well and not returning until the April meeting at this point.
Oh, wow.
Question. If Patty were to move into the chair, and somebody here were to move into vice chair, could we do that today?
Not with her absent.
Not with her absent.
She has to say,
She
I
has
She's
to
will.
gotta-
agree
She's
to
gotta
become
be here
the
to
chair.
argue about it.
Correct.
She's like, wait.
She has to accept her promotion. If you wish to promote a chair pro temp, you could have one for today's meeting. You'd have to elect another one in February because Patty will not be here next month either. But you could also elect.
What if
a
we
chair.
spoke to Patty and she was okay with just
She has
stepping
to
into the
show
chair?
up like
Doesn't
that.
mean-
She
She has to
hasn't.
be at the meeting.
Can I get an agenda? Where's the agendas? Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
that
look
would
at you. You're
Yep.
awesome.
I try.
Now, do you have an agenda?
I'm gonna use yours.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
So you could nominate a chair for this meeting. The next order of business in February, you'd elect a chair for that meeting. And then in April, you could talk to Patty about proceeding as the chair and electing a vice chair. But you would
sounds
Well,
need
you've been on
a
the
chair
commission for a
pro
long
temp.
time. Would you be interested in taking the chair position until we
Sure.
get that resolved?
I was gonna say the same thing about you. I was like, well, Randy, you've done this a couple times. Why don't you
I think I
fill
was
it in?
chair for 10 years.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind
exactly. Come on,
Sitting
like
on the
just
sidelines a little bit longer, but if you guys need me to, I can do it for the next two meetings.
please do.
Okay.
That's would be my vote.
So we'll have a motion from Commissioner Heller
With
with a second by,
thank you.
I'll second.
thank you, Commissioner Cristino. All those in favor of electing Chair Van here, pro tem for the next two meetings, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Chair Van, you are now in charge of the meeting.
Sorry,
Okay,
Randy.
so-
Back in old
For the next two
hands,
meetings.
back in the old glove.
Okay, so let's see here, public expression. Nobody on the speaker or
I see no one
anything?
attending.
Nobody's attending?
And we have no public in the room
No
to
public in
participate
the
at this
room.
time, except if our assistant director would like to make any comments.
I have no comments. Thank you for holding this meeting and for allowing me to be here.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
geez, yeah.
So approval of
you.
minutes, I don't believe I got any, I don't think we've had anything since the September, correct?
Correct.
The minutes?
Who took the minutes when we were in Fort Bragg?
Anna.
Anna,
Anna
she
did.
did pretty good.
She didn't send me anything though.
Okay.
I tried a couple
Poor
times.
I'm sure
Anna,
we
I
can
saw her
Ask
busy.
for them.
Yeah.
Can we pause for just a moment? I mean, just because we're on this approval of minutes item, can we just review briefly what our process is for if the chair is 100% the person who's sending agenda items and what our process is for Fish and Game? And I'm not directing that even at you, Adrian. I'm directing it at the table of
I'm
Information.
afraid, I'm afraid I don't think anyone at the table except myself may know.
Yeah.
Your process, having worked with the consultants that have represented Fish and Game Commission, typically per your bylaws, Fish and Game Commission has a contracted secretary.
Yeah.
That secretary works directly with your chair to agendize items, Fish and Wildlife, and all the other documents that may come forward through Fish and Game. For the past 4 years, I guess, 3 to 4 years, we've been unable to find a contracted secretary. Everyone that we have asked or gotten resumes or applications from has turned down the contract by the time the county gets there. And so the county has come forward and volunteered as the secretary to the commission. Typically, that's myself only having the familiarity of the commission. We do have a commission service supervisor that represents you for streaming and assists with all the document production. So typically when I'm here or if Jim is here, we're taking minutes to present to you. For the traveling meetings, we had a discussion with the chair and we were not attending, so the chair was taking minutes for traveling meetings. They typically need to come back to us at least 2 weeks prior to an agenda to be
Right.
published and compliant with the Brown Act.
So,
We can still publish those minutes even though they're.
no. It's been 2 weeks. I'm so sorry.
Not for this meeting, if we can
Not for this
receive them
meeting,
from
but if we
Anna,
contact
they can
Anna,
go
we
on
get the
the next-
minutes.
Oh, yeah.
We can forward them to you and you can
Mhm.
put them
we
online.
could post them for February.
Okay.
So if we're in this setting here, you maintain the notes and send out the requests for agenda items to be itemized on
Correct.
the next agenda.
And do we still tell you when there's an agenda item?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
And I always copy at least Jim, if not another person, so that
Okay.
if I'm out, because I have different meetings and things, nothing gets dropped and they add it on for me. We all share draft agenda folders.
Cool. And at the last meeting we were at, we talked about just always coming to Ukiah. Like, is that on the agenda or do we talk about
That
it?
is not on today's agenda because we didn't have a quorum for our discussion.
Daggone,
That will
right.
come forward from potentially the commissioners during their reports.
I have a couple things then, okay.
So when it would come up to your report on
You can
item
vote on that.
7C, you can mention anything you'd like to bring up also.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so no report, so we'll table that till the next meeting when we get hopefully Anna's notes and they're forwarded to Adriana, correct?
Mhm.
All right. Okay, moving along here. Item number 5, reports, California Fish and Wildlife. I did talk to both, like I said, Lieutenant White and our new Fish and Wildlife biologist, Camden Ish. I can give you her phone number if people would like to have that.
I
And,
do, please.
it's
Yes.
area code 7.
Oh, wait, I would do that offline, or is that appropriate? for-
Depends if it's her public number.
Can,
It is.
Okay.
It's her state
Oh.
cell.
Can you say?
707
Uh-huh. Wait,
738 3099.
and what's her name again?
Camden, Camden. And she has an office in
D-E-N?
Wells.
Oh, awesome.
That's her last name?
No, first name's Camden.
Camden is her first name?
Yeah, last name is Esh, ESH, and I also have her
I'm sorry,
email address.
again?
Oh, like
ESH,
Escher?
ESH?
Edward Sam Henry.
That's
Esh.
it, ESH.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like they took the Escher and they just went Esh. What, is it Canden?
CAM is in Mary.
Oh, thank you.
Camden.
Camden, okay.
And at the end?
Ann is the
Let me
yeah,
double
Nancy.
check her. Let me pull up her
Camden.
email real quick.
That's so
Okay, just making
creative. So Jennifer Garrison is gone. Whoa, that just happened.
She's promoted somewhere higher in the division, I believe. She's just not our main rep. She's probably in the district office.
She's not the bounce back email, was she?
No, it was Andrea Townsend. Was
That's
the last
okay.
rep
Yeah.
that I was working with.
Yeah, she's on here too, so she's not that early.
Okay, another clarifying point really quickly. So who is going to be our liaison with Fish and Game? Like, are we relying on staff to contact them and invite them to meetings, clarify if they're coming? Or is it the chair? Or what has happened in the past and what do we want to do moving forward?
Usually aren't they
They're
included,
copied on the email
they're
groups?
copied
Yeah,
on
so
the
I'll need the
emails,
new
that's
email.
how they get it, yeah. So you want to share that now, or,
I can do
so
it
everybody
later.
can write it down? But according to her email, it's CAMDEN is the proper name.
Mhm.
Period, ESCH at wildlife.ca.gov. And the phone number that I just gave you was actually Jennifer Garrison's and Andrea's old number, so it's I
Probably the
believe
duty
mine,
desk, yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to really quickly clarify her last name. ESCH?
ESH.
ESH.
Okay,
Edward
I'm
Sandberg.
sorry. I have that originally and I thought you said something else the second time. Thank you.
And she's really eager to get to a meeting, it's just, she had priority,
Life,
yeah.
that thing.
Well, hopefully she can do Zoom for February if she's not able to be present either.
We can get this in an email too, because possibly, hopefully. The Camden one, thank you.
Did I get the number?
I know, it's 735-7099.
738, I thought.
No, I have 3099, but 738, is it 7099? No,
3099.
it's 3099, yeah.
309.
That's what I have, yeah.
That's what I do too.
Cool, cool, cool.
Okay. Number 6, items for discussion and possible action. Discussion of possible action related to the grant cycle process.
So
Whose
that's
agenda item
important.
was that?
It was presented by Anna, I think, for the commission itself. I was just gonna provide background for what staff has done.
I think I left
For the
my
commission.
purse outside.
Hmm?
I think I left my purse outside.
Oh, gosh.
Um, Being relatively new to the commission, I had expressed an interest with Anna as to the process. So I am totally naive to the process.
I had asked questions as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
about the grant process.
That's because we're newbies.
I'm gonna give us a break from it for
Yeah.
Commissioner Peller to come back since we are missing one now.
Find it? Oh, good.
My phone was so distracting. Ridiculous, yeah.
So there's two different avenues for the grant process. The first one was when there was a contracted secretary, she would organize all the information, work with the grantees, accept, the forms, the applications, and then just present the Planning and Building Services Department a PDF to post online. Since that time, we actually have not opened a grant cycle as staff, so I would assume now that Planning and Building Services would post the grant, receive all the applications, organize the packages, work with the grantee, and post it for your next meeting, because you don't have a secretary.
That's so
But
funny.
the time that the grant was opened was up to the commission. There was no set date. Historically, sometimes it was opened in October, sometimes it was opened in April. It seemed to be at the pleasure of the commission to when a grant cycle was opened, but it was only one time per fiscal year.
Oh, God. I only go, oh, God, because I just think that's so confusing to the community. It would be my hope that, not obviously at this meeting, but we find some resolution around the timing of that grant
Mhm.
cycle, and we can agree upon what that schedule looks like to provide that clarity for the community.
It's just been hard because we keep rotating the whole thing.
This is not a knock on the
Yeah.
past, what's happened in the past. This is, for me, this is a moving forward. Let's set things up clearly.
Well, before
that's-
it was pretty much set, you had.
October,
Yeah, October, then they gave the presentations, the first week of December
Mhm.
type deal at a meeting,
Like
type
that
of
for
deal,
a
but
long time.
things got out of skew with COVID and all that stuff, and,
And I would also think that December is a busy time of year for people with the holidays.
it is, yeah, it seemed like it was, yeah. It was the first part of December is when they came forward, but we usually opened in October, gave them 6 weeks or so to prepare their grant requests, and then they presented them at the December meeting. And then we usually had an ad hoc group that went over them and kind of graded them. Jennifer Pfeiffer, I think was her name, she was our secretary then, and
Dr. Janine Pfeiffer.
yeah, she came up with this scoring, deal that worked out really well, and it was really fair.
Is that
and-
what we use this year?
Yeah, we've
Cool,
adopted
The
that
same
program
one,
as part
yeah.
of it, yeah.
Cool.
So are you, somebody wanting to make a motion to get it back on track in October? To where,
I would prefer not to wait that long. I mean, here it is, we're January, that's 10 months away.
what's our budget?
You
Do we
had
have any
mentioned-
idea what our budget is in the
We have
commission?
approximately 120,000 in the propagation fund.
And that's monies for grants.
Correct.
Randy, why did we pick October? Why did that work for us best? Is there
That
anything
was-
around that?
That was when I came on board, that's back
Mhm.
when John Pinches was, I've been on the
Mhm.
commission for a long time.
Right.
And that's how they were operating, with old Bill Townsend, I think, he was
Right.
part of all that group, and-
So we have this thing of October being our opening for grant, but we could do something different, but, you know,
Well, it seems like we've been struggling getting a meeting put together, so it's hard to conduct business, obviously, so that stuff gets set by the wayside because we're
Right.
not able to convene.
I'm sure that we're ready to open. I don't feel like we're organized now either, yet. We don't even have we're not quite there yet, I don't think. I think we should wait till Patty gets back, maybe if that's possible to decide.
Well, why don't we consider,
Yeah.
Patty is coming back in April, I heard you say earlier?
Correct, April meeting.
So the next cycle would be, the next meeting would be June.
April's the next meeting. February, you meet bi-monthly. The bylaws
Yeah,
say the
June.
commission
So
meets
if
bi-monthly.
she's back in
February,
April,
April,
The
and
next
June.
meeting after that would be June.
Mhm.
Why don't we do that? Have it open at June.
So have our, the proposals open up June 1st or something?
I like it, and Patty will be stoked that we get it kind of started, but then she'll be here for the kickoff. I like it.
I think that makes
And
sense.
how fast is our turnaround?
Just to give her a chance to be active.
Yeah, exactly. So if you had a summer project, you'd be able to get that money by summer.
Yeah,
In the
so we'd
summer
meet in
still.
June, so then we'd have the, announce the availability of the monies June 1st to put in
Okay.
for grants. We could interview in August.
Okay.
And possi-
Oh, yeah. So summer would be over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have to look at- We'd have to maybe look at, when Patty comes back on in March for the March meeting, take an action then when she's here.
I know it's like
March or
a
April?
April, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I want, of course, Patty's opinion, nothing against that, but I think we should just think more about the longevity of it. So if we set it in June, let's plan on the next fiscal year setting it in June.
I don't think it's a good time to set it as in June. Because it gets, like say me, if you're doing work outside, you wanna have your money and know you're getting your money for summer projects.
And I
So
think that's why we did it in the later part.
Yeah,
that
I
makes
like-
sense too.
I like October, I mean, everyone's used to October, I know it's a long time away, but then we would be back on our regular thing instead of more.
My questions, I think we need to spend a little bit of time talking about how the grant itself is actually processed. So when are we notifying individuals that they've, been accepted for, or they're going to receive the funding? And then how long do they have to spend it? Because that will impact our timeline, like Patty, or Tracy, thank you, I'm mixing up your
It's
names.
okay, it's super okay.
Like you're bringing up, because if someone's got a summer project, then this timeline impacts that.
Once
The
the
whole
commission ranks the grants, they all go to CDFW's state branch.
Mm-hmm.
The state reviews your awards and determines if they will support or not. If the state supports it, those items are then sent to the board for review. Once the board designates them as approved, we send out the award of the grant with the terms, and they have 1 to 2 years to spend the grant funds and provide their final report.
1 to 2 years.
They can get extensions for 1 year.
You
Okay,
can
so
get
it's 1 year
within-
with a potential 1 year extension.
So for argument's sake, we had a grant at Ukiah Valley Fish and Wildlife.
Mhm.
That was a 5-year grant.
Mhm.
We would not be able to do that again?
We'd have to check the state code and see if Fish and Game supported it. Part of the audit
Well, we
findings
did
from
last
the
time.
last commission was there was no letter of support on the grant terms.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we'd have to get it in writing for them that we're not doing an annual or biannual grant, that it was gonna be a multi-year project and that the state supported that award.
Mhm.
And we've done it, we've approved those in the past
Mhm.
on, different, the Hammerhorn project and some stuff that we were working with the Round Valley Indian Tribes and Covon Mill Creek Restoration.
Yes.
Different, things that'll line up just right when you're planting willows and stuff, it's not all cookie cutter when you're coming to working with wildlife and
That's right.
those type of projects.
Makes sense. Adrian, you had mentioned terms that they have to agree to.
Correct.
Are those available? Because I haven't been able to find them.
It's on the grant agreement. I can send you any of the previous grant awards.
Okay, I'm thinking that that's something separate than that, so that makes sense. I've looked at that, but I was thinking it was a different document.
Just that's all we have is that.
Simple.
And can you share what the process is for how the funding is actually given to them? Are they given the funds and then they spend it? What happens?
They are not. The state audited the county and was vastly opposed to any prepayment of funds. We require reimbursement, so we need a time card, invoices, receipts, everything that's been spent. They can piecemeal it. They don't need to be out of pocket if it's a large grant like $20,000 or something. They could buy $1,000 here, $1,000 there. If they provide an estimate like the Bear Cart trash cans,
Yeah.
they have an estimate from the waste hauler for $18,000. We could pay them the $18,000 from the estimate, but they would not get the final grant payment until they trued up the account for the $20,000 and everything. But the state does not allow prepayment of any funds aside from that.
That makes sense. I just know that historically we have done a prepayment. And so the last grant cycle, what I've heard from folks who received that grant is that they signed it and said, okay, we're gonna get the funds. And then now they're coming back and they're like, well, now you have to provide a receipt. Well, they weren't tracking the receipts because the terms changed after they.
Well,
Yeah.
moving forward, that's good to know. So that's That's different. So if you have a project, you kind of have to have money in the bank, but so this is a
Or
reimbursement.
have an estimate from a company, yeah. And we
Oh,
send that out of the
easy.
grant award letter
Mhm,
now, so
mhm.
before they sign the grant agreement, they're getting an award letter from us that says, reminder, this is a reimbursement, you will not be prepaid funds. You
Mhm.
need to provide us invoices, time cards, receipts, and track everything.
Awesome.
So we
Okay.
updated that letter this year.
Okay.
So far, the Ridgewood Ranch Fawn Pen is the first successful one, but theirs was a small grant, it was $6,000, so
Right.
they didn't mind being out of pocket.
Right.
So in any case, getting back to this grant for the fishing club, we could draw against the total grant?
If
In other
we
words,
approved-
if it went 5 years,
Mhm.
we can give you receipts after year 1, get that money,
Correct.
receipts after year 2, get that money.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. That's cool too.
So,
Ish. Yeah.
what did we decide on? Are we gonna hold off until October, wait till we talk to Patty? About setting up a new grant cycle timeframe, or stick with our October and the way we've done it in the past?
I like the October, but that's just me. I'm just one of 4.
Why don't we bump it to September?
I think the sooner the better. Pure and simple. I mean, if we're waiting till October, you're talking 10 months that nothing happens.
We're just making more money, and we'll just give out more grants.
So we need to make a motion to adjust this year, the 2024 grant cycle to September?
I would
Anybody
say
make a
August or
motion?
October unless you want to call a special meeting.
Oh, that's right, the
So it's
special
gotta be
meeting
August.
thing. August?
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's funny because if we do September, you're still running into the, like, summer's over problem, you're in the middle of harvest, or, people's, da-da-da, but
It
Yeah.
seemed like there was somebody, now that
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
rethinking this stuff, is like the school system
Yeah.
grant, a lot of the teachers that were applying for the
Yeah.
grants for the school systems, they're on vacation
uh-huh,
during
in
the summer and the
Yeah,
different things. So a lot of the, the school type stuff that we support,
I was just
they're,
thinking the
they're
school
not
type-
available,
Yeah.
they're on vacation with
Mhm.
family out of state or something, so. We can table it and talk about
Let's
it
table
with Patty.
it, let's table it. Does not
Joe, you
like
good
this
with that?
decision, I'm getting the vibes. It's okay though, I mean, well, let's just go with what we have, because it really works, as if you start in the right way, then you're gonna always be in the right way. And that's what my vote would be, to always have it be when it serves the community the best, which would be October.
My only objection is I came on the commission in April, actually March. I was appointed, April was my first meeting.
Uh-huh,
October has come and gone and nothing happened.
well, but it's because,
So I
yeah.
feel we have wasted a lot of time already. Let's grab the bull by the horns and let's get going with it.
Yeah, well,
That's the way I run it,
heard,
so.
I just don't want to change terms. We already are going to change the way that the grant is working and how we're working with these people receiving the grant. And so I just want to have consistency, because as we're struggling with post-COVID, these changes, I want us to set things up and at least keep it for a couple of years to help people to plan. If an organization's planning on applying for these funds and kind of banking on getting that, you don't want to be changing the timeline of how that works year
Is there-
after year.
Is there a normal cycle for people to put in for grants, Adrian, like in other programs, or is there any set?
But I agree, Joe.
It doesn't
Don't
seem
wanna
to
wait
be,
for
HCD is the grant
At least for the
organization
whole
I
year.
work with the most. They try and release their notice of funding in January, but they're frequently late and release it in March. Sometimes they miss an
Mhm.
entire year, like this last year, they missed all of 2023, they never got the notice out.
mhm,
And it's gonna be hitting in 2024 later.
mhm.
Well,
Um,
if somebody wants to make a motion to adjust the time frame for this grant cycle, I don't have any heartburn with that. But if somebody wants to make a motion and someone seconds it and we vote on it and see where it goes, if we want to do it earlier this year, just to get some
Get your
monies
person.
going and people back out in the field doing stuff. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I'll make a motion that we move the grant cycle notification was first, right, so to August 1st.
That's second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you take public comment before that?
We historically have not, but you may.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's fine.
Hoping, so, hi, John Burks for the record, on public comment for the item. And I just was gonna ask some some questions, and then I'll turn it back. It's in the informal setting, it's kind of throws you off because it's like, oh, I'll ask a question, then you answer. But I realize that I would have an allotment of time, so I'm going to run through my questions, turn it over, and be quiet on 6A. So if Planning and Building Services is providing secretarial services, is there going to be enough reimbursement money? Because I know that there's limitations on how much the propagation fund can administer for the use of a secretary. To provide both the secretarial services and the administration of the grants, because I don't know how much of a time commitment that is, but in fairness to the department, I just want to make sure that there's at least a conversation of how much we think that will cost, so that there's not a conflict with, obviously there's a lot of pressure on the department to make sure that in every opportunity we're doing full cost recovery, but what I want to try to avoid is a commitment by staff that then gets potentially cut short for funding reasons in the middle of any kind of grant activity. So just food for thought to the group, because I don't know how much time that typically takes between secretarial services and administration of the grant.
Isn't administration of the grant also included in those secretarial services? That was my
For a
understanding.
total of $7,000 a year.
Yeah, so I feel like, in my mind, and again, I don't know because I'm new to the group, that just the noticing, the streaming, the agendas, in my mind, is sort of the secretarial component, and then the administration of the grant of receiving those receipts, providing the paperwork, all that documentation, I kind of view as a separate thing. Again, that's just for my mind. I'll leave it to the commissioners to decide of what the reality of that is and what it'll cover. I did bring a copy of the bylaws if we need to talk about that. And then also I had heard, and I don't know if this is accurate for groups' consideration regarding something that you had mentioned about letting the fund collect, more funds so that waiting isn't a bad, it's not a bad thing. However, I'd heard that there were changes to the law that actually reduced the fines that game wardens are giving that would then in turn populate the propagation fund, and that generally there may be an expectation that we're not going to get nearly, not
As
even
much.
close to the same amount of money. So I was just wondering if those were accurate.
Is
So,
there is there a timeline on this, or?
to my understanding, those laws went into effect in January. This
Okay.
January, like right
So
now.
meaning what, so say in October, we start our grant cycle, and we fund, like a couple months later, how would that affect this money?
If I may,
Versus
oh, wait,
doing
if I-
versus doing it in May?
may I respond through the chair?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, so no, I don't think that the general pot of money that in the propagation fund right now would have anything to do with your current grant cycle.
No, but for income, you're saying?
Yeah, but for income, because all of a sudden there's that percentage clause in the Fish and Game Code section 13100 that talks about no more than 3% of the total propagation fund, which is going to then affect, the ability to secretary. So I just was mentioning for consideration as well of, is there a way to try to understand what we think the revenue is going to be into the propagation fund and plan ahead as you dole out the grant monies this grant cycle of,
Good point.
what's that going to look like in the future? Because if you just send it all off this grant cycle and we only get $5,000 in the next couple of years.
So if I heard you right, CDFW is reducing the amount of fines?
If I may,
Yeah,
respond to that
please.
question through the chair. Commissioner, so what I had heard was that the state had changed the way, or had changed how the laws work, so that normally where you would get a fine or a ticket from a warden for
Right.
take your
For
pick
something.
activity,
Poaching or whatever.
that they've reduced that would no longer be a fine.
That's amazing to me that they would reduce those fines.
It's
the
happening,
legislature.
yeah, it's happening
So,
statewide on a
specifically.
lot of different issues right
So
now.
what
Okay.
you're speaking to is that our next grant cycle, no matter if we do it now or then, is gonna have a lot less money in it because we're earning a lot less money.
Correct.
I think it would be
Okay, so
wise
that-
to prepare that
Yeah,
what you have
understood.
now may
So we don't
be-
wanna give away all our money, we wanna keep some money for our
In
admin.
reserve.
We always tried to
Understood.
hold back
Yeah.
to cover our
Like half
secretarial
or
costs
something,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. So what's the county, since we don't have our own secretary, we're relying on Andrea and Planning and Building to facilitate these meetings for us, what's the commission being charged per meeting
Correct.
by the county?
Yeah.
And that's, Chair, if I may respond to your question.
Open table.
I'm doing my best to be
You're doing
responsible
great.
to the
Thank you.
to the system.
We appreciate that.
We're trying to
I
do
don't
too.
know,
Thank
and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't know that answer, because this has traditionally just been something that we've done. But in light of the conversations we're having about being procedurally accurate and no surprises, I mean, if there's anything that I can do and Adrian can do on behalf of the commissioners, which I think would be the best benefit, is no surprises. Let's talk about whatever we need to talk about to make sure that, you know, we're gonna be efficient and well prepared for whatever is coming down the line. And that's the basis probably for a lot of my questions, is I don't know that answer, but I would like to at least provide some awareness so you can make information-based decisions.
Well, with that information, I'd like to say that actually supports my idea of waiting, because then we have an idea of how much the revenue's gonna change from what it was from last year. So then we'd know, we'd have a better understanding.
So I understand things properly, the money is coming from the county, with monies coming from fines from CDFW, or is
Yes.
it all from CDFW?
My understanding is the propagation fund is all from CDFW.
Solely from
Yes.
court collections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
solely from court collections. So there's not a county match that I'm aware of. Now, that has been discussed in
What
previous
percentage
boards.
of that do we get?
It all sits in your propagation fund.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
All that fine money?
That's my understanding right now, but
That's
perhaps
Was prior.
maybe we could leverage our CDFW contacts and find out if they're getting a sense of, are we talking a 90% reduction or a 9% reduction?
Exactly.
That would be helpful to know.
Well, and part of what I have struggled with as a new commissioner trying to understand information is it's not like we have a budget that's presented at any point in this commission. So there's no opportunity for us to comprehensively look at the funding, the small pot of funding that we actually get to play with.
Yeah.
You know, to put it like that. There's no review of this, the forecasting, planning cycle. It's all up in the
It's all
air.
being created, basically,
Yeah.
right now, yeah.
Yeah, you can't look at your crystal ball and see what the words you're gonna write
No
citation
idea,
wise, you know,
yeah.
and go from it, you know.
And now it's going down, so that kind of gives us an idea. This would be great, because we could be like, okay, this is how much we're, and then we can really track that money and get an average of what we got going on. And, I mean, just saying.
My understanding from the auditor's office is they don't post the fines monthly either. It's like a quarterly or
Yeah.
biannual
Sure.
collection.
Sure.
So we can't even query our Munis account and see what's in there and tell you accurately. It's gonna be an estimate based on when it's posted from court collections and the tax collector's office.
I have one last question on the matter.
Go ahead, Joe.
This year, obviously, we're not doing any grants since last October to next October. Does that money stay there and we
Add
add to
to
it?
it. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think we have a problem financially. I mean, I
Yeah,
think we're
yeah.
gonna have plenty of money there, typically more than we would normally have.
Right, and we get to track the cycle, what we earned last year versus this year, so we'll see the discrepancy too in funds.
And, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I think also, Adrian, in the past, we've limited what we would take, like, okay, we're gonna spend $80,000 out of our $120,000 this year. So we can leave ourselves a little cushion
Push.
to get us through a tough time,
sure.
you know, so,
Yeah.
okay, we've got $120,000 in our budget. So we're gonna release $80,000 of that for the grant, how, the other 40,000 or 60,000 will stay.
In the past several
Intact.
years,
Yeah.
you haven't even had that high. I think it's been, last year was about 32,000 and then maybe 45,000 the grant cycle before.
It was,
So they
yeah.
haven't been huge.
They haven't.
Yeah.
And we're looking at maybe cutting that in half.
Yeah.
You know, with
Yeah.
this new legislature that's been passed,
Yeah.
sounds to me like.
And I mean,
My
you're saying,
concern was that monies that we didn't use don't
Oh,
go back
No, no,
to
no,
CDF.
No,
No, it
no,
stays
no.
there.
That's,
Yeah.
those are other, that's like a grant, I guess that would be like a grant, if you could get a grant, like, but we're not grantees.
no,
Yeah.
I think that the propagation fund is safe because that money's already been charged, paid, and collected, whereas a grant, yeah, there's been lots of talks of clawing those back from the state. So, but that one,
So-
to my understanding, that would not apply. to
The
this
county
commission.
puts no money into this at all,
Correct,
into the grants.
correct.
Yeah, and before, but, you know, it seems like when we were under the, Board of Supervisors, you know, before we were under Planning and Building, it seemed like that the commission secretary interacted with somebody over in the executive office, and that's how things were ran. Right, Tracy?
Mm-hmm, oh, yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know when the
Yeah.
transition took place, when we, became part of the, was it that long ago? All right. Mm. So I don't know, if it comes to the point where working under planning and building is too costly, is there a way we can go back to work under the executive office? Or is it the same? Go ahead.
Chair, if I may,
Yeah, yes.
no, that expense is gonna be wherever, you know, I think in leaner times, we're making those observations. Whereas before, when, you know, it would just, $6,000 a year for secretarial services was, you know, just not really taken into consideration, probably not accurately invoiced. You know, just because I feel like the county supports this commission and was happy to do that for you. But right now,
Right, we're
it
broke.
doesn't matter where you're
We're so
at.
broke,
The
yeah.
county will want to be reimbursed, so whether it's planning or building services, executive office, or anywhere else, I suspect you will be receiving a bill.
Understood.
Which, granted, it's a very small amount, that's why I'm bringing it up now,
Sure.
just to make sure that
Appreciate that.
we're, because I don't want any surprises.
Yeah.
So,
If you could work, or somebody, to figure out what it costs for the Zoom, and I know all this stuff, this technology and everything costs money. So I would be curious of what it does cost our commission to pay the county to facilitate the meeting, what each meeting costs. Is it
And the
2,000,
grants,
is
too.
it 500, is it?
What is the
150?
commission budgeted?
By state law, you can have no more than $10,000 a year for an entire budget. No more than $7,000 can be spent on secretarial services or office expense.
So for all intent and purposes, our administrative costs for the commission is 10,000 or less.
Yes.
Tracy?
Does that include all the administration that you guys do for our grants, like all of that
It's
stuff?
supposed to be part of the
All of the
7,000.
grant stuff, all of this is, and is it, it's probably, if it's not accurate, you guys are, because I remember like, the $50,000 to run this, and I'm like, okay, that would be really bad if that happened, but that can't happen, right? Like, we can't get a bill that says you owe us $50,000 or.
I couldn't say for sure. I mean, that was
Yeah.
we're time tracking, and that was an audit year. So we had a lot of hours between 3 different CDFW state auditors and their different meetings and requirements that
Right.
went through. So
Right.
was that a time estimate for that year? Yes. Is that valid for this year? No.
Okay.
We haven't been audited
Okay.
at the county level.
Okay,
But that was a very unique year.
okay. So would you, Adrian, would you say that $10,000 is gonna do everything and it will be in alignment with what county wants to receive from us as well? Or do you think, yeah?
Yeah, we'll have to do some more estimates.
well, perhaps the commission could request of staff for presentation on your next meeting, an estimate of those services divided into 2 categories. How,
Grant
holding
and
holding the meetings,
Uh-huh.
and then grant administration.
And that's meaning that, that's providing that we keep the meetings here in Ukiah, because our bylaws state that we'll have 2 meetings in Fort Bragg, 2 in Willits, and 2 in Ukiah.
Well, since this is under public comment, and it sounds like something that you were maybe going to mention, I was going to just make some observations of the meeting, just participate, try to be as quiet as possible. I'm failing miserably. I'm
We
so
love
sorry,
it.
commissioners.
Yeah,
Love to hear from you.
yeah.
But I think that there's probably some things that maybe we should consider updating in our bylaws as it pertains to expense, and I'm thinking that maybe keeping this in Ukiah would be the most effective way, because my guess is, that's why I wanted to make sure that my thoughts of the commission were in line, that probably that money would be better spent rather than on staff and giving it away in your grants. So I think that if we could maybe reduce the number of required commissioners, from 7 to 5, reduce the quorum number if we can do that. I don't know, I'm not the attorney, but something that would be worth considering, and holding them in Ukiah, especially if there's any way that we could support your efforts better, closer, because of the traveling, I imagine there's got to be some expenses associated with that.
With all respect,
Yeah.
reducing the amount of commissioners.
Yeah.
I don't see how that saves anything.
Well, 'cause
We're
you
not
could
paid.
have like a quorum, you could
Yeah.
have less people for a quorum. to
And
make
we are
decisions.
reimbursed funds technically if we ask for them for travel.
Well, yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
But
in my
that's not
opinion,
much.
silly.
Other than that, I'm not aware of any benefit. This is just simply for logistics.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't suggest it.
I-
It's not that big of a deal.
Filing back in my memory, I believe that was the direction from the Board of Supervisors in one of their August
In
meetings.
August.
Was to reduce from 5 to 7. It could be a year, 2 years before we even see that come to fruition. The way the board's moving right now.
Yeah, I like what he said, he's like, you can have 7, but you can have as little as 5. I mean, there's like for a quorum.
Yeah, because it's 1 per district and 2 roving.
Mhm.
And
I personally don't think we need 7 commissioners, but I also don't I'm not trying to look to kick anyone off our commission. That's my personal opinion.
Well,
Oh,
of
yeah,
course,
no.
we don't
Yeah.
have to. You can have 7, but you can have as little as 5 for a quorum of 3.
It's really not our decision, it's the Board of Supervisors' decision.
Yeah.
And they sent the direction that they want to reduce us to 5.
Oh, I don't think it wasn't finished. I don't think that was finished. And
It was
I never
suggested.
heard, it was
There
suggested.
was, there
It
was
just a
discussion, but
suggestion.
as far as it
Yeah.
went.
I think they have pending action on that. John, can you clarify? Do you know anything about that?
I think that very well could be a thing, but being as
Yes.
that this conversation's now about public comment, I think it would be best to go back, but perhaps one commissioner could request an item come forward with some analysis about, or how about starting a conversation where analysis could be presented in terms of what the directions from the board are presently to make sure that we're keeping up with all the directions. And then also maybe open the door to have a conversation about bylaw changes for the sake of efficiency, longevity, organization, where somebody may make some more public comments, around that time, so.
Yep.
So I'm gonna end my public comment, because I think we're starting to get off of 6A
Yeah.
into probably a meatier topic,
Good.
so.
So we're up to the vote, is that correct?
Yeah, we were having, regarding the grant cycle change date, so, we had, everybody was in favor of changing that, or are we back to
I'm not.
tabling it now and just maybe leaving it in October? Based on this new information of the funding getting cut by the propagation fund. Joe, you made the motion.
Yeah, I did make the motion, and the reason for that motion, like I'd mentioned, we basically did nothing for a year on the grants. I say let's get to it as soon as possible.
Okay, so we'll vote one more time, so we have
We haven't voted yet.
right, I think we broke into something else, but we had a second. I believe
Mhm.
Madeline
Right.
seconded it, correct?
Probably.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? So 2 in favor?
Well, what's your vote?
I don't think I can I? I
You
can't as
can't
a
make a
chair.
motion, you can vote.
I'm in favor of, so 3 to 1.
Then your motion passes 3 to 1, so the grant cycle could open in August.
Okay, there you go.
Now, with that said, can we limit what the grant cycle is going to be spent? Do we need to make another motion for that? Can we, at this meeting, set a cap of $80,000 to where we leave 60,000 in our account?
Do we need to take action on that at this meeting?
You don't
That's just a
have to.
question.
You wouldn't have to, because your grant cycle doesn't open until August, so that's when we'll post everything.
I think we should wait and see.
Get Patty's
Personally.
involvement as well?
Might as well,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
I think that's a good
So
idea.
could we put that down for an agenda
Good.
item?
Would you like that to come back in April, so that we make sure Patty's here?
Yes, please.
Okay. You got it.
Okay, so that was 5A, so we're on to 5B. Discussion and possible action related to the invoice received by the Ukiah Valley Fish and Wildlife Club.
Yes.
Joe?
Okay, I made copies. I don't know if I have enough copies, but I made some copies.
We can share the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I have enough copies, look at that. All right, basically, this is the invoice on the first sheet. The $5,000 was forgiven after we ended the grant report with a greater detail. So that was basically stricken off the invoice. On the second page, you see our expenses for Matheson Trigas. The Mendocino County Garage Billing and Vehicle Mileage Charge of $1,095.20. The Ukiah Valley Fish and Wildlife Club used the truck for 17-plus years. There was never an expense. The truck was used during the months of January, February, March, and April every year. The truck was returned to the county depot at the end of April or May, depending upon how long the season went, of every year. The county paid for the gas, the repairs, the maintenance, every year of the 17-plus year history. Now, as we all know, that truck was confiscated, and they did not want the tank on the truck, so we had to take the tank off within a matter of days that they can take, so that they could take the truck. We had heavy-duty bumpers put on the truck because we had winches on the truck that would help us as we deposited fish. If the truck was stuck, we'd winch it out. That way, we had 2 steps on the side to get into the cab. These were things we wanted to take off the truck because we paid for those items. The original items, as the bumpers, were returned to the county depot when we got the heavy-duty bumpers and the winch. We would like to get reimbursement for what we lost on the truck. So
So the truck was turned in with these items still attached to
they
it?
would not let us take it off. They wouldn't let us take
Okay.
the heavy-duty winch or the heavy-duty bumpers off because they said what's on the county truck belonged to the county.
What's the
Or-
total of that?
I'm sorry, the commission truck. It was registered to the commission. So, that said, we're at that expense. The other thing was,
What was the expense? Am I missing it here?
I don't have the expense, but I can get it.
So what was the dollar value, in your opinion, that these bumpers and
You're
special
probably
winches?
talking between $2,000 and $3,000. That's an estimation.
Mhm.
That'd be so cool for that to go back to your club.
I'm sorry?
That'd be so cool for it to go back to your club, yeah.
Well, you have no idea. It's not cool, it's necessary, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. The club basically has been devastated by COVID. We had a membership of 80-some odd people before. We now have dues-paying members of 11.
Oh, geez.
So the members, we increased the dues by 33%. The dues went from $30 to $40. You can't go from $30 to $100 on dues, so we figured every couple of years we'll jack it up a little bit, try to recoup something. We used to pay the hatchery manager to work at the hatchery every day. I'm now the hatchery manager. I am not getting paid. I'm there 7 days a week. And strictly, I'm nobody's hero. I volunteered for that.
Would you like, yeah.
So I knew we didn't have money. I'm on the board. I'm the vice president of the club. So I know the financial situation. And it's dire at this point. We're going out to companies in Ukiah, and we're literally begging for money. So that's where we are. To explain the Matheson gas charges of $239.36, prior to 2018, the present treasurer did not have any information prior to taking office. The $326.18 charge for hardware was related to delivering oxygen to the tank, valves and things along that line, hoses. The $113.23 bill was forwarded to Ukiah Valley Fish and Wildlife from Planning and Building for September, October, and November tanks. Rental is also at the same time the county confiscated the truck. The club converted the monthly tank rental, which was $42.50 per month, to an annual tank rental of $75 per tank. We have 2 tanks. There's a tank in the egg hatchery. In the event that something happens to our water and the water stops, we have to deliver oxygen to the eggs and the small fry. If not, they vanish, they're gone, they're all dead. So right now, there are 2 tanks that are being rented, one for fish transport truck. As we're transporting the big fish that we have spawned, we have oxygen being pumped into this tank, which is now on a CDFW truck. So I'm asking that these charges be rescinded. These are charges that we never got before, and now all of a sudden we got hit with this unexpectedly.
These are the charges on the back
The
sheet.
charges are on the invoice, 109,520, which is for the Mendocino garage billing and vehicle mileage. and the Matheson gas billing for $239.36.
So you're looking around $1,400-$1,400, with the
Right.
5,000 here with the data
They were years
2018
ago
grant cycle.
I'm sorry?
At 5,000?
Yeah, the 5,000
The
from the
5,000 was
2018
taken care
grant
of.
says, okay.
Okay, good job.
And how was that resolved?
Years
Joe?
ago,
The
Pat Ford
5,000?
and, my mind
Mike.
just went blank.
Mike something, I think.
Yeah.
Kuroko or something.
They never got any bills for anything. So mostly everything that was there was taken care of.
So the $5,000 you said.
We
was
are
taken-
now paying, the $5,000 was taken care of.
How was that
That
taken
was
care of?
rescinded.
Okay, from the
Okay,
county.
That's what I
Right.
thought, okay. Cool. Good job.
We are paying Matheson for the tanks now, currently. We have some tanks, in addition, CDFW is paying for one tank, which is the tank going on the truck. So at this time in point, we have two tanks in the hatchery, the egg hatchery, the Bill Thompson
Yeah.
hatchery,
Yeah.
and one on the truck. And that's pretty much it. Any questions or?
Well, yeah, I mean, are you looking, are we trying to get this money for the the group, obviously, from the county? So this is invoiced from the county, if I'm correct?
It's actually invoiced from the Fish and Game Commission.
Oh, I see it up here,
Well,
okay.
yeah, planning and building, CO, planning and building services.
Okay, we're gonna need some help from you on this. We don't remember, getting a bill put together for this at all. I don't remember being a part of any of this at all, so.
Well, that's because it didn't come from the commission, it was coming from staff.
Yeah, so maybe I could be introduced into the commissioner's conversation as staff versus a public
Sure.
comment for this one.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll need some help understanding, and likely my questions may lead to more questions, but hopefully we can get this nailed down. So, so when you're describing the charges and the bumpers, that is as a commissioner or as a representative for the group that got the bill here?
Both.
Both, okay, I just want to make sure. So the bumpers were purchased by the Ukiah Valley Fish and Wildlife Club. Okay, so that's one thing.
And installed.
And installed. Okay. On the vehicle that was then taken back by the county.
And they would not let us take our property off the truck.
Okay, so that would be. So if I understand correctly, that was about $2,000 to $3,000,
I
which
can
sounds
get
about
the
a
numbers.
couple
I
inches
mean, the
bumper.
numbers are gonna be from 1993 or something, it's 17 years ago.
Yeah, this is a bit of a long shot, but I figure I'll just ask. Do you think that there's a receipt for that?
I doubt it.
Okay.
What'll happen is Pat Ford is the last living member of the original members, and he was a commissioner here, if I'm
Yes.
not
Good one.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Good one.
He knows exactly what happened, when it happened, what it cost.
Sure.
I can get a statement from him, a notarized statement from him. He lives in Oregon now,
Okay.
so I can get that from him.
Well,
if
maybe
we
as a
need it.
current, yeah, and that may not be needed. Maybe just as a current member, has there been any formal request from? Is the Rod and Gun Club the same as the Wildlife Club?
The Rod and Gun Club is just a name change.
Is a name change? Okay.
Because there is a Rod and Gun Club or a Gun Club.
Yeah.
Ukiah Gun Club.
I think that's what I've been.
And there was a
calling it.
lot of confusion between the two.
Got it.
So they decided, this was about 5 or 6 years ago, they decided to change the name
Yeah.
to the Ukiah Valley Fish and Wildlife Club.
Oh, got it. Okay.
No mention of guns.
Oh, okay. So current name Ukiah Valley Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah,
Club.
used to
Okay.
be,
Okay.
right.
So has there been any formal request from the club to the county about the property that was on the
None.
truck?
No.
Okay, so I think generally speaking, it's probably a good idea to have a formal request in writing, even if it's an email.
To the commission or to the county?
Well, I would say,
The commission is who confiscated the truck.
yeah, I would say, just for due process, I'm guessing it would be to the commission because it's from the club. But ultimately, right, once it comes into the commission, there needs to be a conversation about, you know, who we would talk to in general services agency who's in charge of the fleet about what that process is like. Now, granted, full disclosure, this is gonna be unique because it's not very often that there is access to county vehicles to add accessories, so I don't want to imply that by having this conversation, there's gonna be a favorable outcome, but we can't get anywhere unless there's a
Right.
formal request.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would say that's probably step number one. Okay, so then there's a bill from this commission for charges that were not ultimately approved in by
State, CDFW,
CDFW
government code.
back to the club. I guess my follow-up is, and this may be way too simple of a question, but could the club just apply for the next grant cycle to cover these costs, since it's a reimbursement program?
And put it in as a grant, you're saying?
Yeah,
This year, these charges?
yeah. Well, I don't know, if they got denied the first time.
I don't know, because the initial charge came from the state saying you had to have additional funds back into the propagation fund.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't be increasing the fund, you'd be staying stagnant by doing it. You see what I mean?
Okay,
Because they wanted to increase the fund by the 2439.75. They said that was improperly taken from the
Right.
grants. They wanted more money into grants.
oh, I see, okay, right, okay, so basically, that money has to go back in to make it whole,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
So I don't think you could re-grant it to yourself to make it whole, because you'd still
Well,
be negative.
my only question to that is, what happened in previous years where we never got a bill?
Well,
This is the first time we're getting a bill.
again, not being present for those times, I'm
Neither
going,
was I, by the way.
yeah, and, you know, that's part of what, you know, we're gonna have a little bit of historical amnesia. You know, there is a possibility that perhaps it wasn't tracked and billed appropriately then. And in our efforts to become more compliant now, these things are coming up. And the audit ultimately determined outside of the county's purview that this was, you know, not a coverable transaction in some capacity. But my question is, if this formal request were to be honored in some capacity and there was a transfer of funds to the club, which again, I'm not saying that that's going to happen because I don't have the power to make those decisions, of course, could some of those funds be used to then, you know, basically pay this back into the
The problem is, we
propagation
don't
fund?
have money at this point.
Well, that's what I mean.
That's
If
the
you
problem.
reimbursed, you.
If you were reimbursed for your
Yeah.
vehicle expenses that, you know, clearly
Oh,
were
yes,
there.
Yeah,
yes.
That maybe one goes one way,
Yeah.
one goes the other. You know, I'm not an expert in these matters necessarily, but perhaps first things first, let's get the bumpers figured
I
out
like that.
and see where we're at after. Is there any time obligation to when this needs to go back into?
They have not sent me any follow-up emails after all the invoicing was completed and all of the final grant reports were received. We've had 2 different reps retire. The final senior auditor was not, I don't think it's the gentleman that sent me this one. I forget, I'd have to look. I think it might be Edmund. It's either Edmund or Kai. I forget which one did or did not retire. Seemed to be satisfied that the requests were made. They didn't state if there'd be a follow-up on if we received payments.
Okay, so if there's not a time crunch on the club reimbursing the 1095 and the 239 back to the propagation fund, could the next reasonable step for the commission to be is let's get something in writing back to the commission about the private property?
Okay. My only issue with that
Yeah,
is if we're not reimbursed for the bumpers and the winch.
Yeah.
We're back to where we are now.
well, right, I just figure, first things first, we're gonna have to have the
No, absolutely.
conversation
I'll
again
give it a
anyway.
shot.
You
Yeah,
gotta start
I'll
the
give it a
wheel in
shot.
motion, Joe, on that with
Yeah.
an email from your guys' club, you know,
Yeah.
and a breakdown of what actually.
yeah, the items.
So the request is going to the
The
commission
yeah,
or?
to the
Okay.
commission, because I think it would be fair, the commission would then use staff to talk to the appropriate internal county agency who manages the fleet. So in that email, it would need to be, what the items were, approximate cost, any information you can provide,
Mhm.
you know, statement, you know, cause I don't know, I mean, if they're old, I mean, there's not gonna be.
I'll
receipt.
talk to Pat and get a statement from him, because I think somebody's gonna want a statement.
I think that's reasonable,
Yeah, I
and
think
then so at least that way
yeah,
we can
that's fair.
have,
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Have Pat write the letter.
well, it could be a joint, cause you know, you need a current member probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll come from the club.
Yeah, it'll come from the club to the commission. I think that's step number one, knowing full well and on record likely well, let's see how that goes first, then come back to, okay, well, what do we do about this, as long as there's not a time crunch and we're not taking on liability by waiting a month or two. I think this is probably the most important thing. How long ago did the county or the commission take the truck back?
Last October.
Okay,
Not
so
this
we're not
past-
that,
Not this past October, the one before.
oh, so it's been over a
Was
year.
it 22?
Okay, well, not,
Maybe?
Mm-hmm.
2022?
anyway,
Where the
I
heck
think,
is the time go?
I think
Are
that
we
would
on
be
a
good.
crunch time?
You know,
for you
we-
guys?
we-
5 o'clock?
We felt that we were basically thrown upon with this truck because it really threw us for a loop.
Sure.
We had the fishing season coming up, the steelhead season coming up, and we had to scramble.
Yeah.
To get another truck. We were lucky that California Fish and Wildlife was basically sympathetic.
Yeah.
And they gave us a truck to use.
Yeah.
It is their truck. It's not in our name, it's their truck.
Yeah.
We
Cool.
use it.
Yeah.
It's our tank that's installed on their truck.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And so just for clarification, again, the taking of the truck was a result of the
Audit.
audit. Okay,
And there's another issue that we had with that.
yeah,
Because from what I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the audit happened some 10, 11 months before, and the edit came down to confiscate the truck.
mhm,
We had 2 weeks to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, we were really short-handed there. So,
And I
you know, the
think,
way things were done were not proper in our eyes.
sure.
It's not your fault. It's okay.
and I want to ask a
I'll
clarifying
try not to
question.
own it. I'm that way.
Don't go there.
Go ahead, Madam.
From a commission perspective, was the commission, I've heard various stories, so I'm seeking information. Was the commission notified of the results of the audit and the action that was going to take place before it took place?
Yes, they were.
What?
So the
You know
commission
that-
knew
Oh,
that
I'm
the.
sorry, what was your answer?
Yes, I had an email and a letter and a meeting with Red Hawk Pallison 9 months before the truck was taken. He was fully aware of the audit and was part of a meeting with Fish and Wildlife where they stated they would be requiring the information 9 months before. I was not the secretary of the commission at that time. We had an acting secretary. I don't recall who it was.
Oh, that one.
The
yeah,
lady that
yeah.
nobody really liked,
Right.
but,
She
so
had-
I was not attending the meetings, but I gave Red Hawk the information, the
Key.
letter, and my follow-up from the auditor. It was actually directed to Shamice Cubison as the auditor controller for the county,
Mhm.
but the audit was handled by planning and building because we had the forms. And so 9 months before the truck was taken, Red Hawk had the official letters, which were supposed to be delivered to the commission. I did not deliver
Is
them
that when he
myself.
just dropped out quickly?
No, it was before.
We knew, I,
So
He
in
never-
short,
I wasn't,
he
I
never
wasn't
shared
in
it
the
with
loop on
us.
any of
Yeah.
that.
in
But
short, the
telling
communication
one-
ball was dropped.
I
Telling
think
one
that's-
person on the commission, and then the letters were supposed to go to the commission, we don't know if that actually happened,
It
right?
didn't happen.
So it
appears
didn't,
was
know.
not.
So it
appears
didn't
not.
happen.
The chair did not
Yeah.
deliver the letters, and nothing came forward.
Who was the chair at the time that the letter was?
Red
sent?
Hawk.
Red Hawk.
Okay, well, I think that,
So-
Human error.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, at least as staff, yeah, I'm certainly sorry on behalf of,
Me too.
an administrative regulatory organization, that commissioners who serve ultimately extremely valuable purpose in the community, that was not handled correctly. However, that being said, I think that at least I will do my best to make that right by what we do moving forward to the commissioner's satisfaction. I know that Adrian and I are in lockstep on making sure that you get what you need. So if that's any, consolation, I hope that it is, but hopefully our actions will ultimately determine what is best for the
Are
commission.
you new? Or like, yeah,
I'm very new. I'm not from Mendocino County,
yeah.
but I hope that,
Who knew that?
yeah,
How
but
did I know?
Thank
yeah,
you
I'm from
for
Texas.
coming here.
Um,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, well,
I'm very happy.
welcome.
I'm very happy to be here, and I want to do
So
right
happy
by.
you're here. Wonderful.
It's beautiful. Who would want to be here? I mean, part of the reason why I personally came to Mendocino County was for the wildlife.
Thank you. That's
So,
what I'm saying.
I feel like
Yes.
this is a good place to be in investing effort. So again, I do apologize, but if we could get this nailed down, I think
Yeah.
that that's probably step number one of a
Be
few conversations we
reimbursed,
should.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I have
Yeah, I
one
support
more,
that.
I'm so sorry. I have one more clarifying, this is my meeting for clarifying questions, so.
Fine.
This invoice sent, it's dated 5/15/2023. I was not on, I had been appointed, but I had never attended a meeting at this
Same
point.
here.
So again, question, was this discussed and shown to the commission before being sent?
I can't
I
say
didn't
for
my
sure.
knowledge.
That was the second invoice. We completed invoices toward the end of 2022 with the state auditors. I don't believe those were delivered. Again, it went through the chair. The 2023 was the recreation of the invoices because at that point, that was when the chair had resigned and we had realized that there was an information gap in my not attending and having a stand-in secretary and a chair. And that information was getting dropped along the way in all of the transmissions. And so that is the second invoice. The first batch, I don't believe was ever delivered, but it was from 2022.
Oh my.
So is, in the future, if something like this arises again, is this information only going to be sent to the chair?
No,
Okay.
we learned that last time.
Cool, thank
Thank
you.
Yeah, because I think had,
Thank
had we
you.
have seen that, there would have been some
Good
open table
discussion.
discussion
Yeah,
in regards to
discussion.
this
Well, I
bill
think
before it was
prior-
sent out.
If the information and the request for full grant reports
Mhm.
had been delivered, I don't think that would have been ignored for a year.
I don't
Because it
believe
took
so.
me 14 months to get grant reports.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's
yeah,
unacceptable.
yep.
But yeah, so I think there was a lack of information, which is why I frequently try and attend as the head commissions person and the most experience in the commission, because I don't think the information was being delivered through the people that we had trusted to do that.
We're super lucky, Adrienne. You've always been there for us.
Go ahead, sir.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So is it reasonable to say that with your assistance providing the secretary dues, and again, I don't know if you're gonna go out to try to find a secretary again, or if we'll just continue to provide, that's up to the commissioners. But that being said, is it reasonable to say that things like this administratively are normally taken care of? Or is there a process that the commissioners should consider to ensure that this doesn't happen again? So under normal functioning, would we talk about these things in enough detail that the commissioners would be aware and be able to sign off on these? Or is that typically something that's done behind the scenes that maybe we should talk about bringing forward? Again, I don't know, because I would assume under normal circumstances, you give direction here and then things happen behind the scenes.
I think if a bill is going out under the Fish and Game Commission, the
Yeah.
commissioners should know about it.
Should be full disclosure to all the commissioners.
commissioners.
How many bills go out?
I have no idea.
That's
This is
the only
first time
one.
we've
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
the
so it's safe to
first
say we're not
one,
gonna be like spending hours
Just you
going.
guys.
Hashing
All
out
right,
the
here-
bill, yeah.
Okay, so so
Yeah.
can that be just direction from commissioners to staff that if,
It would be an agenda item to
Right.
discuss prior.
Exactly.
okay, all right.
Perf, wow, cool.
So, we are tabling this till the next meeting?
I think that we
In
should,
the interim, I'll get
I think we
Yeah,
should
just email
table
a
the
request out.
invoice. I would, Commissioner, I'd recommend that you discuss with the club about getting some official notice back into the commission.
That'll happen in the morning.
I'm thinking,
Cool
yeah, and
beans.
sooner the better, right? I mean, it's gonna be,
Can I ask
I
for those
want-
copies back?
you may.
Actually, I made some
Only
notes
because
on
it's
mine.
got a
Can
lot
I,
of our billing on there.
can I hang on to mine?
You sure can.
I wrote on mine, sorry.
I wrote on mine too.
Oh
Well,
my
I did it like
goodness.
a cross
Now I
out
got,
and a couple
now I gotta
circles.
charge you $1,250 for it.
So real, on this 5C that we were discussing, or C, what were we on that?
6B.
5B,
6B.
Huh?
6B.
6B? Mine says 5B.
You have the wrong agenda in front of you.
Oh,
He's got December.
where'd you get your agenda, Randy? Did you print them
Here you
out
go.
before you come?
Oh, I got too many agendas going on here. Sorry about that.
Everybody has an
I was
agenda.
gonna say, that sounds
Mhm.
like everybody, yeah.
Okay, so,
Continue to February.
no, just real quick there, I wanted to ask Joe something on this deal from the minutes from, December 12th meeting, 5C, discussion of possible action to create an ad hoc committee of Commissioners Prestino and Newman to work with the Ukiah Valley Fish and Wildlife Club to foster relationships within Mendocino County. Is that what this
That
is?
never occurred.
Okay, so with Newman out, do you still feel a reason to have an ad hoc committee, or are you
Well,
comfortable with handling this yourself?
No, basically, you have to understand that the club feels, I don't wanna say slighted, but minimalized. You have people that volunteer at the hatchery 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, and 1 day a week, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours for the day. So that's purely volunteer, 3 people per day. If we didn't volunteer, there would be no hatchery up at Coyote Valley, because California Fish and Wildlife would definitely not hire another 3 people to work there. So when they confiscated the truck, we were like, what in heck is going on here? Why are they doing this to us? We're providing a service, we're providing free labor, we're doing all the running around, and they took the truck with our equipment on it and won't give it back. So, you know, we feel minimalized, slighted, picked on, if you will. That was the reason I wanted to have a discussion with Anna.
Yeah, and that's been
Now,
cleared up with the
and
5,000.
this
though.
basically is the whole ball of wax right here. So, I mean, if we
We feel
can
good?
straighten this out, fine.
And then, if I may, Chair, maybe what would be a positive recommendation too, for the next time that this item comes, is, because you sit on the club board, yeah, so maybe it would be best as a commissioners to go ahead and recuse yourself from the commission and present.
From the vote.
Yeah, and then just present on behalf of the club, which I
Right.
think would alleviate any issues. And again, I
That
think
was-
in that respect, you wouldn't need your ad hoc
That's
then
what I was
because you
concerned
would
about
be,
the ad
Right,
hoc.
yeah, I'm
Speaking
not
on behalf
concerned
of the
about
club.
that at this point.
yeah.
You know, this suffices.
Yeah, yeah, I think we're on the right track. I think just as a matter of the housekeeping, would be my recommendation is that when we
Yeah,
talk about
no,
this.
I would recuse myself from
Yeah,
any vote.
just, yeah, right out of the gate, I'm just
Yeah.
recusing myself, speak on behalf of the
And if
club.
anything, I'd probably have the president come down as
Your
part of the
choice.
public.
Yeah,
So Joe, would you mind, making a motion to disband this ad hoc, so we
Well, I
can,
don't think you would need to do that yet, it's not agendized.
It's not?
No.
Right, because we didn't have that's the December meeting that we're referencing.
He was looking
So
at-
no
yeah.
action was taken on that?
well, no, we just formed the ad hoc committee at that point, but
on
there
a
was,
future agenda, you can agendize the disbandment of the ad hoc.
Okay.
work.
yeah, because I think if we do that, it won't be.
So we did form the ad hoc? I'm trying to clarify. We did.
We did.
Yes, but nothing happened.
At what meeting?
Yeah.
that
The
just-
one in Fort Bragg, right?
Okay.
no, December was the,
Oh,
December? No,
Then, because December didn't happen.
no, it was before December. Nothing happened in
So
December.
to
no,
clarify,
I thought it
Tuesday,
was
before
before.
Tuesday,
Fort Bragg.
September 5th.
Before Fort Bragg.
Okay.
So
And
the meeting just
it
before
was,
Fort Bragg, I think.
Oh,
Just-
August?
The meeting happened here.
It did because
When the ad hoc committee was
Oh,
formed. We were here
okay,
in this
okay.
room.
I made the motion for the ad hoc
Okay.
committee and Patty Madigan seconded it.
Okay.
so can we put an agenda item on for future to
The next
disband?
meeting.
That's what I
Yeah.
was trying to
Okay,
She
sorry,
just-
I'm,
she did.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
clarify what we're doing.
Good.
Man, it's
Okay.
so good to have you back in the saddle, I just gotta
Move-
say.
Moving right
Saying.
along here. Okay, Joe, are we good with your topic for discussion there on
We'll-
6B?
And then do we need to call for public comment on, even if we're tabling it for another meeting?
You can.
Is it required, do you know?
It is not required.
Okay, 6C, items for discussion of possible action regarding Commissioner Klein's letter to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
So we had discussed in our Fort Bragg meeting, was that October?
I wasn't there, I don't.
October?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
it
had
was
discussed our October meeting, potentially writing a letter to the board regarding some of the things that we've already, other previous items that we've discussed today. The grant funding, discussion from the August, Board of Supervisors meeting, of which I pulled up the language, just so we have that. The funding of the commission and how much it costs to staff the commission. And so I took that as an action item. I said I would work with Supervisor McGordy and talk to him as I'm his appointee, and then I would draft a letter if we felt that that was the right step and direction. And so I chatted with him, and I think that's part of the reason why we're getting some clarity on these issues is because I think all of us are making a concerted effort to clarify what the commission's doing, jurisdiction, these sorts of things. He requested of me that we don't write a letter at this point, so that's why no letter has been drafted for Brown Act clarification, and no letter has been attached to this agenda item. So I want to make sure we stay within the parameters of this. I don't think that there's anything specific. Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's any guardrails from Brown Act
Not right now, no.
on this. Okay. I think we should probably continue down the path of making sure that we clarify these things, such as the outstanding invoice, the grant cycle, and then also the funding, staffing, the staffing is the more appropriate term, the staffing of the commission to make sure that the commission knows everything, the information that was presented to the board. This keeps going back to the August board meeting. I did find the language. They did say that they direct staff to look into restructuring the Fish and Game Commission into a 5-member body.
Right, that's what I heard too.
I think at this time, we should heed John's suggestion of creating an agenda item for the future, of which visits the staffing component, where we can have discussion and analysis around PBS's analysis of staffing.
You mean commissions, how many commissions?
How many commissioners?
Yeah, not staffing the commission.
No, I'm talking about staffing the commission.
Are you talking about our secretary and admin, or are you talking about how many commissioners on the board?
Both.
Okay.
They're tied because they're both related to the funding.
Understood.
Right, and
So you're talking about how many commissioners are supposed to be on the board, and then who's gonna be being our admin?
right,
Uh-huh,
right,
uh-huh.
right. That's my thought.
Mhm.
Because there were different statements made at that August meeting that were disingenuous and misrepresented the situation with our commission, and so that's part of the reason why we were considering writing a letter, is to clarify statements that were made about the audit findings, about the cost of our commission, and I think we all definitely want to have that clarity. Any thoughts?
I feel, yeah, I mean, I feel like you both being here today, personally for me, I'm finding a lot of clarity in our meeting today. And I feel like this kind of work and the things that we're requesting now are moving us forward into what things are gonna cost. I mean, I feel like we're definitely doing that as a team too. So I don't feel pressure for you to write anything personally. That's how I feel.
So what are you doing every other month, John?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanna,
Yeah.
I wanna participate if you'll
He
have
loves
me.
the wildlife.
I do.
Yes. Like
So-
Adrian.
But I
That's why
think, you know,
she's
as
here.
part of
Yeah.
it being a productive meeting, I think this is one of the most productive meetings we've had in a long time, because so many questions have been answered between you guys,
Yes.
staff,
Yes.
you know, so there's not having to create an ad hoc committee and all this stuff
Yeah.
to look into stuff after the fact and then reconvene on it.
Yeah.
So I'm supportive of not holding off on writing, I'm in support of not writing a letter at the moment to see how
agree.
big, and I did talk to Supervisor Hashack, out of who you reached out, who, you know, I work with, and he was under the impression that the word I got, they wanted to disband the commission completely, wipe it off the page.
It
That
was discussed.
It was
They did
discussed.
discuss it,
And,
for sure.
and that's what bothered me, and then, you know, John
It didn't
didn't
happen.
realize
no.
that was the case, he thought
Yeah.
it was the two members, the coastal at large and the inland at large to go away, and then just the 5 commissioners, and I explained, you know, we're all a volunteer group here. So the more bodies out collecting information and bringing to a group like ourselves that discuss wildlife issues and stuff. And with the 2 floaters, it gives a better opportunity to have a quorum, you know, because we are a volunteer group, people work, people have families, people have emergencies.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger pool to draw from to get a more productive meeting. So I'm in favor of keeping the 7 commissioners as is.
What I would propose is that we have the agenda item for the next meeting to present that information, if staff is going to, able to present that, if that's something within the capacity of staff. Is that okay? Okay.
We'll throw something together.
It could be the information that was presented to the board, and have that be an item for discussion, and then if we feel it's necessary to take further action, decide then.
On further action regarding the reduction in commissioners?
Yep, or
Okay.
clarifying anything or requesting anything from the board.
I don't, yeah, so, but we'll talk about it next time, because it's on the agenda item, so we don't have to talk about it anymore. Yeah.
But if you wanted to go to the board meeting, what the director and the department prepared for planning and building is posted, so you can see part of the information from the packet.
Oh, like right now?
It should have staffing hours and stuff in there, I
Oh.
believe.
And I think that's what we should make our agenda item about.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, Chair, as staff, if I could, or
Absolutely.
propose, I guess, it'd be
Yeah.
not specifically to you, but we're making a lot of eye contact, so. And then maybe a possibility, so I think that the intent of the letter to basically advocate for the needs of the commissioners to the board to get some support and some, actual direction, I think if that's required, well, maybe this is an opportunity to do exactly what you're describing, because again, I think whatever's going, whether it's 7 or 5 or anything like that, whatever is gonna make the commission more efficient and make sure that we're in budget, those kind of things, that's the conversation I think that would be most fruitful.
Yes.
But then if you would open the door to, if we're gonna do any bylaw changes, let's do them all in one shot.
Exactly.
Since the process is
Yeah.
all the same, because I've read through it, I've got my little notes that maybe would be of some value or not, I don't know.
I love it.
So maybe we get into, if we're gonna
That
do a
will be
little bit,
fun.
in for a penny, in for the whole dollar, or
Yes.
whatever the expression is.
Yes,
Did
yes.
we not have a bylaw review agenda item recently?
We did,
Mhm.
and we're really excited about it. But we just haven't had time to do it. We just haven't had time to do it.
Have you already discussed the bylaws recently?
No, but we were like, we need to go through our
Oh.
bylaws,
Well then,
and then that was
Actually, I
like,
think Patty was discussing that.
I
Yeah.
thought we did have an agenda item.
We did.
There was one earlier
We did.
this last
Yeah.
year, but I don't remember which month. But I don't believe a discussion came out on formal recommendations to amend. I think it was a
Right.
pretty, like, here's the bylaws, everybody read it and discuss it next time.
Yeah,
and
'cause
then we
next
never
time
did.
maybe rather than a
Yeah.
letter, it's just
Yeah.
you going and saying, hey, board, this is actually what we need. And it's already bundled up so that you could, approve it.
Right.
So we'll do more work first.
Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
obviously you're gonna need to make some decisions.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I
So it's
also
cool,
wanna
because then instead of a
streamline the
question,
bylaws
it's a statement
Yes, please.
letter. Yeah, like why this, why,
Do we need
it's
to
like
wait
a
for
statement letter.
Joe to get back?
This is what we're, look, this is Where are we at right now? Are we still
Waiting
planning
for
or-
Joe.
we're waiting for.
Oh, we're waiting for Joe. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, I kind of have to go too. So you're new to Mendo. Where do you live, Ukiah?
Yeah, so I live
Yeah.
in Ukiah.
Yeah.
I came here to Planning and Building Services in 2019.
Oh, so you've been here a while.
A little bit, long enough to know
in
that I'm not
planning and
going
building?
anywhere. Yeah.
Oh,
Not the
cool.
whole time. He left us for a while. We
Yeah.
conned him into coming back though.
I went,
Excellent. Good work. Thank you.
yeah, I went on
Yeah.
assignment for a year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, means a lot to us because what we're doing is so important. I mean, wait till you see my report. I mean, we are totally a significant part. Mendo Wildlife and we're the commission, and the board has enough on their plate. So
Yep.
we're here to help. We're not here to, and we don't want to cause the county money at all, but we definitely want to help our wildlife. So, thank you for showing up because it makes the whole thing so much more fun. Yeah.
I think everything that we've talked about is super doable.
Yeah, cool. I hope Joe gets his money back. Well, club.
So
Yeah.
on one of the items you'll be talking about would be the changing of where we have the meetings. Cause it says
Yeah.
right here, section 3.01, the meetings will be split up between Ukiah, Fort Bragg and Willits.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at maybe keeping them all here in Ukiah.
So
Yeah.
for example, maybe it could be a standard of being in Ukiah with the commission's discretion to choose to hold them in other locations as long as it meets all the noticing requirements. So it's not saying that you wouldn't, it's just that the base location, perhaps, if the commissioners see fit, would it be Ukiah, i.e. lean times here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And then if some reason, if you find some motivation that you do want to hold it elsewhere, that leave that on the table, but just that it's not a requirement of the bylaws that the traveling roadshow must happen.
Right, and we've done that before, outside of the 6 meetings
Mhm.
we had, like one of the Willits ones we had in Covelo, because there was a big elk crisis up there with the ranchers and
There you
the
go.
fences getting knocked down, and so we had the Round Valley Commons up there.
Yep.
And it was, it was packed,
With
you know,
Yeah.
to where if we had had it down here, we probably may have had 3 or 4 of the local ranchers, but because we had it remote and local,
Yeah.
it was just, and Supervisor Pinches was there, and,
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to take that opportunity away. I just think of having it be baseline Ukiah, at
Yeah.
least for a little while, and once we get
Yeah,
everything
that's what I'm
figured
looking
out.
forward to, like the rhythm.
Yeah.
Just the rhythm and the beat of the commission.
yeah, we had a wild,
Yeah.
or a fisheries guy, remember Josh Russo?
Yes.
He was
of course,
awesome. He
Yes.
can talk with the commission quite a bit.
We don't have oh, Patty, yeah.
But he, with the urgent stuff that was going on, he was really up to speed on that stuff and going
Yeah.
on. In fact, I think we got him a pretty good grant to do some
We did,
urgent type
yeah.
recovery or, whatever it was they did with him over there. I
They,
went over
like,
to where they did
They
that.
harvested them and they were doing with fertilizer, they were making, or something like that.
Yeah, and then they had
Yeah,
some
yeah.
divers there and
Yeah.
they were studying how the abalone were
Yeah.
reproducing. It
Yeah.
was, and the kelp beds were
That
moving
was
back.
so amazing being
Yeah.
there during that time.
Yeah,
But we had a
Yeah.
meeting in Point Arena because it was, that seemed to fit that area and,
Yeah.
it was packed. So I like the idea of, for discussion. I know this isn't official, but, to have the ability to have a remote
Yes,
commission meeting.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause-
as needed, absolutely.
And we used to meet, once a year. It was one of the Ukiah meetings, but we met with all the board of supervisors.
Oh.
The commission was on one side of the tables, all our appointed, supervisors that appointed us were on the other side.
Wow.
And that was,
I've never seen one of those.
yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Was it a potluck? No, just joking.
No, it was a productive meeting, I will say
I
that.
bet. Well, could we do that again? That would be so fun. Interact with the board of supervisors like that again, so they know who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it was in better times. I think they probably had a lot of stuff going on right now to deal with.
I
But
know
I
exactly.
mean,
We can't see them, but
you can
anyway,
reach out to
yeah.
your commissioner and say, or your supervisor and say, hey, would you consider
Oh.
the thought of, having a joint Fish and Game Commission Board of Supervisors meeting,
Okay, they'll be like, no, we're
And
really
then kind
busy.
of put
Yeah.
the commission, back on the map with the
It
public
does.
of like,
Yeah,
hey,
and the
Yeah.
supervisors,
here's your, your.
this is what we're doing for you in the field,
Oh, that'll be exciting. After we're all like cleaned up and everything, then we can be like, and then this is when we meet, and then this is
Yeah.
what we do, and then we change. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good.
We'll look like so good. Yeah.
And then perhaps, if I may, Chair?
Yes,
Um,
please.
One thing, depending, if we're going to make recommendations to the bylaw, I don't know how this works, but perhaps the commission could elect to set aside some money to request of the county
Right.
to have county council review for any potential
Mhm.
issues.
We worked with county
How much
council
is he gonna
before.
charge us? I want a deal.
Yeah, well, I would.
I mean, like if he likes wildlife.
I think we should.
Yeah.
But he's charging the county,
I would have the commission
charge
request for a
us.
freebie.
okay?
Yes.
With the idea that if they say no, that perhaps it would be reasonable out of the
Yeah.
propagation fund to pay up to a certain amount for some legal analysis to make sure that the bylaws are.
Just to review the document.
Yeah.
Just a review, yeah.
Yeah.
So say, hey, we're
Yeah,
we'd,
ask him for.
we'd like a
give you for
freebie, but
free.
if,
Yeah.
if that's not doable in light of the economic times, up to this amount,
I would
20 bucks.
imagine an hour or two. at
Yeah.
most,
Yeah, wouldn't take
250,
much.
300 an hour.
Yeah,
Oh, come on! It's wildlife. He lives here. Come on.
I also am not $400 an hour, so, I'm quite a bit cheaper.
Exactly. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
okay, let's get
Okay.
back on task here.
Okay, let us.
Well,
Go ahead.
time for a motion on that matter? I don't think we tied
No, I
up
don't
what-
think
No,
we
we're
need
making an
to.
agenda
Yeah.
item.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're
So,
squared.
item number 7, commissioner comments, reports, and announcements. Commissioner Klein, District 1.
I don't want that I go first. I'm just gonna,
You're number one.
I'm gonna
You're number
complain
one.
about that really
You don't have to
quickly.
try harder.
Number one.
For my report, I've continued to hear a lot of people talking about elk and the elk problem. And I would really like us to set up some time to talk about that with Fish and Wildlife.
What's the complaint?
That they're everywhere and eating people's hay fields and knocking their fences down. I don't think it's anything new.
The same old, same
The
old.
same
Uh-huh.
thing. I know that Mendocino County Farm Bureau is also interested in discussing this conversation with us, having this conversation. I don't know what's been done in the past, so I would love to hear, what that's kind of looked like as things have evolved. But I believe we have a growing elk population here in Mendocino County. I would like to see some numbers to verify that, and have kind of discussion on what that means for our county. That's probably my big item,
And what could be done?
and what can be done. Yeah.
Yeah, there's, he was, I forget what his name was. I've worked with him quite a bit on different things, but he's promoted. He's like the elk coordinator in
That
Sacramento.
guy, he was here for a second, and then they took him
It
up
was-
north.
it
I'm
was-
like, why are you taking him?
It was
This is where the
awesome.
elk are.
He was
Can we
awesome.
get him back here?
I think he would come back for a
Let's
meeting to
get him back
discuss,
here.
especially if there's
Yeah.
something going on with the.
We need his
Or you
name.
could do Zoom.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
what,
could do
do you
Zoom.
remember
Yeah.
his name,
Yeah, I-
Adrian, that guy? Sorry.
How
Oh,
long
you're good.
ago? I can check the records.
I feel like
I've
it was
got
a
his
Josh.
number.
It's not a Josh.
Yeah.
Well, we
The
can-
elk
No,
guy,
we
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 can
can
need
look at that.
him.
We'll try and get CDFW to do an elk presentation.
No, not a presentation. I want them to come and listen with our solutions because they've done their presentations and we sit and we watch their slideshow, but it's like, this is what's happening and these are the solutions that we have as producers. What do you think about that? Because especially when but this is a conversation, right? Because I too have elk on my hit list here. So it's like a thing that it's like it's a thing we really need to talk about, like beyond a presentation. I mean, we've seen how many presentations on elk have we seen? Like a bit. Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah.
my vision is that we have a forum for the public to share
No,
with
that's the
us.
whole thing. Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
mindset is the public probably needs an avenue for this conversation.
100%. 100%.
I mean, yeah, I'm here, I'm collecting feedback, but it's really less about,
you want to
me
hear
talking.
from the producers.
it's,
Yeah.
So if we're hearing from the, the people we represent for our district, our supervisor
They're
seat,
freaking out.
we
Yeah.
don't have the ability to make decisions on what happens to the elk. That's a fish and wildlife deal.
Exactly.
So we need to
yeah.
talk to Camden
Yeah.
as our new wildlife biologist, and
Right.
she can facilitate something with her department to have a
Okay.
community type meeting
And
or
we
something.
should-
That's how I would
yeah,
approach
we
it.
should be the advocates. Well, haven't we done a special meeting in the past? Like,
Yeah.
hasn't the
Yeah.
commission, so couldn't we do that?
We
But
did
they
a
come
joint
and they
commission
do
with the
their
Farm Bureau.
presentation too.
That's what I propose that we do again.
Yeah.
Well, it would be great, like you were saying, like anyway, let me let you finish your report. I'm sorry.
No, I
Yeah.
kinda wanna hear it. if
It's
that's
just
okay.
it's just the whole elk thing is like, it's nice when they go to the area and then they look at the, like Shamrock Ranch, for instance. It's like, it's nice when they do a site visit and then we all learn from the situation with his wildlife corridors. He's got an elk crossing that they didn't even know. There's so many things to it. I love the idea of a huge public meeting as well, because the producers really need a place to share. And I think that they'll learn and hear from each other. All that's always great. Yeah. But on my report, that he's having a hard time getting her out there, and so I need to call her. That was on my list of things to do. Miss Esch.
Well, she's just
Yeah.
come down, you meaning the new biologist?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's just getting located and,
Uh-huh.
she's coming out of Oregon, and so, she's.
Give her a minute.
She's, yeah, and, now
Yeah.
that she's got an office in Willits and stuff, and she
Okay.
wants to be a part of this commission.
Okay, good.
So I think let's give her a little bit of time to
Yeah.
get
Get
settled and get
How many minutes?
acclimated.
We've got-
She will more
Okay.
than likely be at the next meeting.
Good, before they start, before babies start flying, for sure. And then
Yeah.
what about, that guy? And then Adrian's gonna help us with that guy. Yeah.
Well, she
Okay.
can, I think that would be,
Okay.
appropriate for Camden, because he would be her supervisor, basically, so
Perfect.
that's how, in my opinion. We
I love
shouldn't, go around her and contact her supervisor, give her the opportunity. to-
I didn't know it was her supervisor.
Yeah, they work,
I was just
Together
saying
on
that
this.
guy, cause he's the elk guy.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the elk would be my first point, and I'm sorry I don't have a full report on this, just things I wanna bring up.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, which I know I talked about in our last meeting, but just the use of illegal chemicals and pesticides on illegal marijuana grows in Mendocino County and the impact of the environment. And I don't have this is what we should do about it, but again, I wanna bring this up as a topic because it does have an impact on our environment and our wildlife. And I know the sheriff has been vocal about it in the past several months. But I think there's an opportunity for us to be partners and advocates on this topic, and love to hear others' thoughts.
How?
What do you mean how?
How do we partner with sheriff or whomever on this topic?
That's what I'm asking is, how do we either be a part of the discussion or go out and find information and bring that forward?
Okay.
Because technically, if you look at our grant, eradication or removal of these chemicals could potentially fall within the grant, within the purview of the grant. Yes.
What are the penalties or deterrents now for these,
The illegals?
Yeah, is there like a fine associated from
I think the
CDFW?
sheriff would be the one to ask.
Sheriff would be the one to ask. I'm not sure. I talked with him yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, I don't remember. And he did say, because we were talking about fish and wildlife, he historically has taken a lot of Fish and Wildlife's calls, things that are being dumped in rivers. As times are lean and their capacity is limited, they're moving away from that. And so I want to make sure that we're supporting the general public safety of our community and our environment. Really, the environment's our prerogative here, but do we bring these conversations up to Fish and Wildlife? Do we push for more involvement from them? You know, what, I'm just saying, these are things we need to consider.
Oh, get the wet team back on or something like that, you know, the CDFW cop people back on the scene or something like that. You're asking how can DFW, like maybe get some more wardens out there or something like that?
Sure, it's to
Uh-huh.
me, it's open-ended, and I'm probably not 100% what my report is supposed to be, but these are just things that, the two
Mhm.
things that I'm thinking about right now.
Given the widespread problem that is currently going on
Mhm.
with the illegal grows.
Yeah.
And given the vast area that the sheriff has to cover,
Right,
he definitely has the short end of the stick,
Oh, yeah.
and he needs help.
and that's
short
why
of deputies,
he
yeah.
wants to push back and have Fish and Wildlife be responsible for those calls. Like, that's under their jurisdiction, they need to take care of it.
Oh, sure, okay.
'Cause think
The
about it.
calls, you're talking about the calls that he gets of the people doing the damage
in
to the
streams.
environment.
Dumps and, yes.
Okay, so then they call DFW, that makes total sense, and then they should call, and then, so then we'll have to figure out who do they call, how do they call, and all of that stuff.
It's something
Uh-huh.
else to discuss with.
Absolutely,
Usually if someone
Good
has,
one.
has an issue, they call 911, so that goes to the sheriff's office, so they send a
Right.
deputy out to see what's going on.
right.
So they make the decision, okay, this is a Fish and Wildlife. Before we had
Oh.
Before we had a
wet
WET program, watershed enforcement
Yeah.
team, but with the different
Yeah.
legislature and stuff and the cannabis being legalized,
Yeah.
that stuff's been disbanded by the governor.
Okay.
So there's not a pool of wardens out there that specialize in this type of work, and we
Okay.
are understaffed with wardens in the
So
single
what,
county.
so who would be the people with DFW that would come out?
Would be with the few wardens we have,
Right,
you know.
like
you-
Zach and Neil and, okay.
Yeah, and Lieutenant White, like I said, was planning on being here, he'll probably be at the next one.
Oh, that's, okay, cool.
But that would be a good question for him to
Mm-hmm.
be
Are
involved
we
in.
writing this down? This is really good. This is good, Commissioner Klein.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madeline.
Yeah,
Okay, that's the end of my report. I've talked enough this meeting.
we all have. It's not disappointing.
Okay, Commissioner Pastino, District Two.
Hang on, John, do you want to say
Okay,
something? Really
What,
quick?
I just had a-
hold on, Joe.
Just a quick question for,
Sorry.
I don't know if this would go to, yeah, my apologies, Commissioner. If this would be for Camden or not, as when wardens do find the ethyl methyl bad stuff, is there a ticket that goes with that? Or, so is it a violation to possess that, to have it on site? Does that warrant some sort of action by them? Okay, if that's already in place, are they doing that? Or for some reason that we're not aware of, are they not enforcing the ethyl methyl bad stuff violation? And then my follow-up would be, if those two things don't work, is there a county ordinance that would be appropriate? But I don't know how the heck you'd enforce it, because then the burden of evidence would fall to, take your pick, sheriff, code enforcement, I don't
Let's
know.
pick Hazmat.
Warden.
Because they would actually have the ability
Because
to
they
make the
have the
determination.
suits, and like when Wayne Briley had the truck for
Brilliant.
picking up all the meth labs, they used to call the sheriff's department called Wayne.
That's true.
Hazmat and Refit went out and picked up all the spills.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
Ooh,
Maybe.
hazmat
So is
involved.
a high-level penalty appropriate if determined by hazmat?
Yeah.
If it doesn't already exist, which I think it may.
I think it does.
But
I think
hazmat's a county,
Correct.
It is.
yeah, it's not the
Yeah.
state, so.
Yeah.
But
It's a partnership between
But
the
they could
state and
probably
Yeah.
fine them, I'm sure they do fines, I know they did for stormwater.
Yeah.
Oh,
Would we
yeah,
still
yeah,
get
I
the
would
money?
think.
They find him?
If it's through hazmat, probably not.
I
They go to the county coffers though.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that works too, okay, fine.
Maybe
I'm all
get you
about
free.
taking money from people who are
I
doing
know.
illegal stuff, so.
I am
But it doesn't
down.
bother me.
From
Well-
chemicals to good stuff, yeah.
It is a deterrent, right? I mean, you just gotta get a couple of high-profile cases established, CHP's not gonna pull everyone over who speeds, but they'll get enough of them to where we think twice.
Yeah.
But we've
Right.
had in the past, we've had, I'm not saying anything about our district attorney's office now, but in the past, we've had captains, lieutenants, wardens from Fish and Wildlife come to our commission meetings and wanted to know if we could talk with the district attorney's office because their cases were getting prosecuted.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one of the things you're gonna run into is the criminal prosecution is one, but perhaps through via ordinance and the civil regulatory enforcement where you get nailed with a big ticket, which wouldn't necessarily fall under the criminal side of things, you may get more traction, but it all really depends on what happens now. Is it a criminal violation, civil violation? What are the enforcement tools that CDFW has? And if they're not sufficient, what are the alternatives? well, maybe it's a county ordinance.
I
don't
am
know.
so excited about our next meeting, you guys. This is jamming. Yes, yes. We gotta have CDFW, somebody there at next meeting so we can talk.
Or on Zoom.
Or on
Long
Zoom,
as
thank
they
you.
can
Well,
listen.
they're there. Yeah,
They're there, yeah.
they're there, yeah.
Good. Joe, sorry.
That's okay.
My
No
apologies.
apology necessary.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I don't really have anything per se for District Two, however, I do report on the Coyote Valley Fish Facility with Commissioner, permission for District One,
Go for it.
because it sits in her district. So, basically, the Coyote Valley Steelhead Facility is up and running. It started to run on December 1st. We had water coming into the hatchery. November 1st, the water is very muddied because of all the rain we're getting, but that's okay, the fish don't mind. It's open to the public as of the 2nd of January. The spawning day is Tuesdays at 9:30 in the morning, open to the public. If you'd like to come down and watch, we'd love to have you. There's very interesting stuff going on there. We run the trap and do sorting every day, also at 9:30. We have the numbers of steelhead that are coming in right now are much better than last year.
Sweet.
However, they're still behind the year before, 2022. So as long as they're better than last year was our worst year on record. We had 193 fish come back for the year. We've had as many as 5,600 come back for the year.
Yes.
So you can see the disparity there. So right now, the numbers are better. We're getting anywhere from 5 to 10 fish coming in back every day. That's a good number. Today was the first day that we met our quota on spawning. Tuesday is our spawning day. And so that was a nice thing. We've been behind the first 3 weeks in January. So this week, we caught up. As of now, we have volunteers at the hatchery for anywhere from 57 hours per week to 67 hours per week.
Excellent.
This is all unpaid on our time. So, just to give you an idea of what goes on there. And if anybody wants to come down, come on down. If you want to give me a call, we'll give you a special tour.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Please
I'll
do,
call you about it.
please do.
Do a commission
That's
tour.
awesome, Joe.
We could do that.
Oh.
2 at a time?
So as long as it's on the agenda, we can all go.
Oh, well, that sounds fun. Let's do that.
Field trip.
Add it on the agenda.
Yeah.
February 13th, we could start earlier with a field trip.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh my gosh.
I'll take,
because we
I'll
have
take a
work
couple
to
hours
do.
off so I could go as a member
I'd
of the
like to
public.
see it. I've
I
always
would
wanted to see that
too.
operation.
Yeah.
Optimally, you would want to be there at about 9:15, 9:30 in the morning
Uh-huh.
to see either the spawning, which is very interesting, or the sorting. The sorting, basically, we run the trap.
Mhm.
The fish that are gathered in the trap, we bring them up on a table, we measure them, we sort them. Males go into one tank. Females that are ready to spawn go into one tank. Females that are green, not ready to spawn, go in a third tank. And then Tuesday, we take the tank that have the green females and we go through them all again to see if any of them have become ripe for the spawn. And then Tuesdays is when we spawn. We spawn 1 female to 2 males. This is the way the Department of Fish and Wildlife want it to be done. They're biologists, they're genealogists. This is what they want. We take DNA samples of every fish.
Oh my.
Every fish that's spawned gets a tag so that if somebody catches that fish, they know to call the number on the tag and report the number of that fish. And we also, by doing that, we keep track of fish that come back. With salmon, they come in, they go up the ladder, they spawn, or we spawn them, and they die. With steelhead, they go back to the ocean, and they'll come back a year or 2 later.
So February 13th or March 13th?
It would be February 13th is your next meeting.
Oh, it is?
Well, the spawning thing happens earlier in the day anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to go take our own field trips.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you.
Thanks,
That'd be
Joe.
fun, Joe.
I'm done.
Okay, 7C, Commissioner Peller, District 3.
Well, I have a report for you guys. I just talked to Sean at Shamrock today, and it is not fabulous over there. So again, the elk thing, big time. We lost 30 to 35 yearlings last year, died, 12 at Shamrock alone, and they're thinking because they got landlocked because of the water, and so then they were having their feces in the water, and that's what the small biologist reported. He called our biologist, but they couldn't. He called 3 different people from CDFW and said, "Please come look at these dead calves." Nobody returned. Nobody could come, and it was our new lady, and she couldn't come until 3 or 4 days later. And you guys all know what happens when you leave something dead, and is gone. So by the time she came, of course, the calf was gone. I mean, it was already dead, but it was like dead and gone then. So so we're thinking that's why. And they are, it's out of control, the elk situation. And so I said, okay, well, we'll do a meeting, we'll get the people together. He's done everything. The amount of mitigation and exclusion that he has done on Shamrock Ranch in compliance with CDFW is mind-boggling, and they do not pay him. He does this, to do the thing that, the agreement that Shamrock has with CDFW on the tax break. But they are spending so much money on the fencing, the corridors, the elk crossings, and then the damage, and then the fodder that they eat. So it's not really weighing out, as far as like there being, a safe place they do a great job of, people will call him at Shamrock, come and get your elk. He's like, they're not my elk. Like, I know. So I think a plan in place for our elk, and he's like, there are so many elk, and CDFW is not interested in more tags. I am totally into more tags, especially for producers.
Yes.
And the worst story I ever heard, Tracy Musgrave, he's there, and elk's eating his apple tree. He can't shoot the elk, not allowed to, can't get a depredation, even though it's done property damage. They've done property damage all the time, but you can't. So then he goes, and you guys know I love wildlife. I mean, come on. But I mean, and so he goes all the way to Montana because he wants to eat an elk, shoots an elk, brings it back, and it's like, that to me is the most ridiculous story ever. Like, there's an elk literally in your backyard eating your property, but you can't have that elk, not that elk. So I just feel like there could be a healthier, reciprocatory relationship with the producers, CDFW, and they eat meat. You know what I mean? Yeah, they eat meat. So I mean, I think that I understand what we did, and I feel like job done. Good job, you guys. The elk population is thriving, so like now is the time, and all of it is going off. So since we lost our wildlife services, so I started the Mendocino Wildlife Association to be the plan B because I knew wildlife services was coming down. Drama happened. Okay, whatever. So now we have no plan B. And so there's no boots on the ground. Chris Brennan's out. We have a huge wild dog problem. We have cats aplenty. Our turkeys have gone down like huge amounts. And so it's like a whole wildlife mitigation process. We have to figure it out. So I wrote a grant for a new program that I'm started, LWWP, Living with Wildlife Program, an acronym. And then what our whole job is going to be doing, and we're going to do it through the Grange, is for education and then possibly storing exclusion resources in each Grange. But for the big stuff, like the fencing and all of that stuff, it would be really important, I think, for these producers to be able to get some sort of financial support either from CDFW or be able to do tags. So I think that would be a really good thing for us to look into. And to have more, I know we're so busy and we're so far out, so it's really hard. But to be able to have like somebody come and look at the problems in a more timely fashion, I think would be awesome too. But we're human, so what are you gonna do about that? And that is and the wild dogs was the biggest heartbreak of all. And sorry guys, but this was like shocking. He thinks he saw some wolves. And I'm like, really? We're so screwed now. Oh my God. Like now, so he thinks he saw about 6 wolves together.
Who is this?
This is Sean, he is the rancher, the ranch hand the manager of Shamrock Ranch.
Shamrock Ranch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
If that's true.
Yeah, and so so they came, he didn't see him again after that, they didn't act very dog-like, but the wild dogs that he has seen, and Chris was good, so I'm like, we should check in with Chris. Chris is getting calls all the time too, and I just feel like it's time for us to all talk about what's going on now that we have disbanded the services. And, you know, my little LWWP will do something, but like, this is a really big, this is big. And so let's talk about it. Yeah,
Again, that's be a question for our wildlife biologists and stuff at Fish and Wildlife
what,
to
the wild
discuss
dogs?
yeah. More so to discuss the topics about the elk and stuff.
Absolutely, they
Yeah.
have to come, they need to be at our meetings. Chris was there almost all the time.
Yeah, Chris was good.
Okay, and I feel like, let's have him back again. Chris, come back again, because even though he's not doing that, he's still out there. He's the person people call, we have a huge pig problem. You know, he used to have a sterilization program where he would cut the nuts. Now no one's cutting nuts. We've got pigs,
Only at this commission.
what?
Only at this commission.
We've got pigs proliferating everywhere, you know, destroying property everywhere. And so it's like, we did this, and I was like, you guys, there's no plan B. There's no plan B. And now we are seeing the results kind of the no plan B. And I do also admit that the Wildlife Services also wasn't doing any educational. I mean, there was a whole thing lacking here. But anyway, so, yeah. And that is my report. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, 7D. Patty.
Absent by pre-arrangement.
Yeah, Patty's
Hmm?
gone.
Just you.
And,
And you?
Just you.
I'm done. I don't have anything to report.
You're like, it's elk. It's like everything they said, yeah.
You guys covered it all. Good
Wild
job.
dogs, elk,
Bless you, my son.
pigs. Yeah. Thank
So,
you.
anybody make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Yes.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Adrian, and thank you, Randy. It was great having
Thank you for
back there.
participating.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Streaming us.
Thank you.
So